this evening a public hearing to discuss applications for Community Development Block Grant CDBG 2024, 2025, and 2026 program years. Mr. Bosom, I believe you have a presentation. Thank you.
Good evening. I don't necessarily have a presentation. The purpose of today's public hearing is to brainstorm possible ideas for use of CDBG grant money that we could apply for. As Paul said, this is for the funding period 2024, 2025, 2026. Historically, the city has received about $80,000, somewhere in the range of $80,000 for that 3-year period. These grants are to be used for low to moderate income areas, so there is some limitation as to where they can be used within the city. But we can pitch ideas. The purpose of this hearing and the next one is to pitch those ideas for use of that grant money should we choose to go after the grant. One thought we have had internally is used towards HVAC replacement up at Golden View Acres. It is our senior housing facility. Those HVAC systems are all in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 years old and will need to be replaced in the near future. There are a couple steps that we will have to take. That area technically does not fall into a low to moderate income area based on 2015 census data, which HUD goes by, but they have given us a method to which we can pursue that and still have it qualify. Other areas that we could use it in are some of our downtown area. There were some thoughts of possibly doing some public parking repave or potential lighting improvements in some of our public areas. But again, I open it up to you guys and the public for comments. Anybody that does have other comments after this meeting, the public comment period will be open until towards the end of April. I believe the 20th of April, and they can email myself at sbusam, SBUSAM, at cityofsharonville.com with any of those ideas.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
And there will be another public hearing at the next council meeting as well, to kind of finalize the project.
Steve, just a question. Is that something that can be put on the city's website to try to get resident input also?
The public notice is on our website currently.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And my email is on that public notice to receive comments.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none. Any questions from the audience this evening? Seeing none, I will call this public hearing to close. All right, I'm going to call the regular meeting for City Council March 26, 2024 to order. If you could please stand for the prayer and a moment of silence with Mr. Charles Lippert.
Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Buhite, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Tankersley?
Here.
Mrs. Sharpshire? Here. Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Levitt?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mrs. Knight? Here. And Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Thank you. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes of the last meeting? Seeing none, the minutes will stand as approved, as written and distributed. Reports and communications, Mayor Hardman.
I have nothing specifically to report this evening, unless anyone has any questions for me.
Thank you. Safety Service Director, Mr. Lucas.
Just legislation this evening, three items. First two are public works related. Steve's here to talk about both of them.
Good evening. Ordinance 2024-25E is authorizing Safe Service Director to enter into contracts for our street repair program and our street preventive maintenance program. This is our street repaving, and then our street line painting and crack seal, route and seal program. They are our these are our yearly programs, and they were approved in our 2024 budget. 2024-26E is allowing the Safety Service Director to enter into a contract for our next 5-year waste removal contract. Our current contract is up in June, so it's just time to go ahead and put out the bid. We're expecting a increase based on what other municipalities have seen, but we also increased our 2024 budget to account for that. So we expect it will fall within that. Any questions?
That waste is for trash and recycling?
Yes.
Those? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Chief Sunderman's here to talk about a grant request under 2024-2070.
Good evening, all. We have a request in to apply for and accept a SAFER grant, and I know the words are in front of everybody, but for those listening, that is staffing for adequate fire and emergency response. This is a federal grant. We would like to apply to bring on 3 additional full-time members of the fire department. In large part, we continue to struggle with getting enough part-timers to fill our part-time hours, and we also, this grant run out for 3 years, will take us to 2028, and 2028 becomes the time when the group that was hired in 2002 will be set for retirement. So if we bring 3 more in now under this grant, then as the city becomes responsible for their pay and benefits, we will have a fairly large group looking at retirement around that same time. So I feel like timing-wise, this is a good fit. I do have this in as an emergency. There is a steep learning curve to doing a federal grant, and frankly, the deadline or the grant application period that I thought was going to be toward the end of April is now due the 15th of April. And we also recently found out if we put our application in exactly 1 week before the deadline, we automatically get more points. So that's why I have this in as an emergency, that we can submit this a week ahead of time so that we can get those extra points. It is all scored off of a point system through the federal government.
Just add a couple of things. There is undoubtedly, we have a staffing issue within the fire department. That's a long-term issue that we've been working on. The chief has been working on and making some proposals for a long time. We've been hesitant to go full bore on this proposal up until this opportunity became available. I think what basically this opportunity is going to allow us to do is see if these additional full-time folks resolve some of the problems, the challenges that we're having from a staffing standpoint, and being able to do it with the federal's dime to see how it all works and how it all plays out, to see if this is an answer on an ongoing basis to some of those personnel struggles. So hopefully it works out well. Hopefully you all will support it tonight. It's always nice when the federal government wants to give us back some of our money to work for the folks here in Sharonville.
And I do.
Well, and just to touch on that, the federal government may be giving us less money starting next year that I was going to, hopefully, that Dan could touch on.
Yeah, that was a couple other points to that, and Mr. Lucas, the number of dollars available for this grant will be cut in 2024's budget for the federal government. The mini omnibus bill that was just passed, this is actually cut. So we have as good a chance this year as any. There won't be as many dollars available in 2024 fiscal year for the federal government. The other thing I wanted to touch on as we talk about staffing, I was in Columbus for the Ohio Fire Chiefs winter meeting earlier this month, and we did get a good report from the EMS division, which handles all certifications for paramedics and firefighters in the state of Ohio. And the good news is, I think the bleeding has stopped. They've seen an increase in renewals and first-time paramedic certifications over the last 2 years by 0.86%. I know that doesn't sound like much, but when we were watching this fall 20 and 30% a year, 19, 20, 21, the fact that it is even up at all, hopefully is a trend. And moreover, the number of firefighter certifications is up 4.26%. So we will continue to watch that trend and remain hopeful that, some people will start to come back into the business where we, really, we were down, double-digit percentages in 2020 and 21. So hopefully we'll see that trend change just a little bit.
Quick question. So we spoke through this in law committee, but this is the first time I've heard that future years they're going to be cutting from the federal government. I don't know if I can't remember that being part of our conversation. So with that knowledge, or maybe new knowledge that we have, would it be advantageous to add a couple more onto that application, knowing that they're going to be giving the dollars and we have a better chance this year, there's more dollars to give?
That's a big question. And ultimately, we all need to be comfortable with what the budget looks like in 2028. And I got a random email that this was cut yesterday. So this is new news. This is new news to me. Now, that being said, even if we do receive the grant this year, there is nothing to stop us applying next year or the year after. And I think to the mayor's point earlier, as we get closer and closer to that 2028 mark where all those 2002 hires are ready to retire, I think it might be advantageous. Let's see how it goes with the 3. There's nothing stopping us from reapplying. There are departments who have received the grant during the period where they had grant employees, so that's not impossible. But that gets us now closer and now beyond that 2028 mark where we could really have some staffing issues. So I appreciate your thought, but those dollars get pretty big in 2028 when then all the burden is on the city, and spreading that out, which is a chance, obviously, might be a better fit for the city and for our budget, quite frankly.
And you can only use these grant dollars for new positions. So those potential retirements in 28 wouldn't be eligible for this grant because those are positions that we already have and have to be filled. Am I correct?
Yes.
So my understanding though was the 3 coming on would be 3 new positions, but then those 3 people could back grant. We could, through attrition, lose the 3 positions that they would just kind of frog hop each other, right?
That's our safety net in
Right.
28. If we can't, number one, if it doesn't meet or do what we expected to do by way of the challenges, or we don't have and don't continue to bring in the income to support these extra positions, then we can take care of it by attrition.
Yeah.
And I think you were asking about applying for even more positions.
And so I certainly want to say I respect the
So-
strategy, I respect what you're saying. My thought process is obviously through some of the part-timers, they're more of a turnover position, some of the stuff's, there is a turnover. My position is do you front load a little bit with the federal dollars, looking for, for 2028, looking 4 years ahead, knowing that we're already going to have an attrition just from retirements from, like you said, the 2002 hires and things like that. Now, I'm not dead set on that. I'm just trying to give you every tool that you possibly can have. That's all.
Understood. I think that takes us to a number that is something we have not considered.
Fair, okay.
And nor would I want us to go forward to do that. I don't think it's wise from
And I think to the safety net point, whatever staffing total number we have to maintain during the grant period. So for easy math, if we have 20 people, we have to maintain that during the grant period. If we get a second SAFER grant, say a year later or two years later, then that staffing number then can fall off from the first grant application, if that makes sense. You almost need a scorecard. So if we say, well, we can't afford the 3, and now we have 3 retire, or some magic reason we have more part-timers getting in the system, that does give us basically 2 safety nets at that point. So I do think there's some good strategy and benefit there.
Fully respect, yeah.
And the only other thing, I just wanted to publicly thank Lieutenant Berg and Battalion Chief Peck have put an incredible amount of work into this. The rule book is either 56 or 58 pages. I can't even remember. So they've done a lot of the background work, and Scott and Luke, I know we've had to tap them for quite a bit of information as well. So I'd like to thank them for their work on this. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chief.
That's all the legislation this evening.
Thank you. For my report, I'd like to recognize the Sharonville Police Department, especially their detective division. Many of us found out today through email, and if you watched the news this evening, that there was an arrest that was made with an individual who was been charged, I guess, with putting nails on Crescentville Road, or Chesterdale Road, I'm sorry, in that general area. So it's been a long time coming, and then with their work with the Springdale Police Department and the Westchester Police Department, I think they finally made an arrest and hopefully have solved the issue. So I'd like to recognize them for that long process and their hard work. That's all for my report. Clerk of Council, Ms. Buhite.
Thank you. I don't have a report tonight.
Do you want to mention the public hearing? No? Okay, that's fine.
No, I'll do it again.
It's down on the sheet.
I know, sorry. So, in case you didn't hear, there's a public hearing April 9th
What? You say that again,
to
please?
discuss the community development block grant. So,
All right,
see you then.
thank you. Auditor, Mr. Cunningham.
Good evening, everybody. I think last month I reported that we were a little overspent and under-reserved, and which was normal for that time of year. This month, there's really no change to being able to establish any trends. It's too early in the year, but we are a little bit overspent still by about 3%, which again, this time of year is normal. However, what's happened is our reserve, our general fund reserve, is a little over where our threshold is. So that's a good early trend, I guess. Something that's a positive news. I would say at the end of the quarter, when we're sitting here next month, we might be able to establish some kind of trend. But as of now, that's what's happening. That's my report.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, Treasurer's report, Mr. Irie.
Thank you. The treasurer's report is on file with council, or with the council clerk, and we are, of course, 16.66% of the way through the year, this being the end of February report. And you'll see in our current budget progression, as shown on the one of the graphs in our report, that we are 19.4% collected, receipts collected of the general fund through the year, 16.6% through the year. And the other funds, the street and maintenance fund is 29.6% collected, fire fund 18.6% collected, senior housing 21.2% collected, and convention center 17.7% collected. So we're ahead of pace in all of those. Also wanted to note that on the year-to-date collections for all tax receipts, we have, through the first 2 months, exceeded the first 2 months of collections going back to 2020. So it's a good sign that we are ahead of pace on all past 5 prior years. So thanks.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Irie? All right, seeing none. Law Director, Mr. Lippert.
Thank you. I'll echo President Coulter's statement regarding the nail bandit. I'll say that in my secondary role as a prosecutor, assistant prosecutor with the Office of Melissa Powers, I plan on keeping a close eye on that case downtown. So other than that, I am requesting council vote on going into an executive session for the purpose of consulting on 2 disputes involving the city of Sharonville that are the subject of pending or imminent legal action. Other than that, I don't have any other thing to report unless anybody has questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any residents desiring to be heard before council this evening? All right, seeing none. Council committees, community development, Mr. Tankersley.
No report.
All right, thank you. Budget and finance, Mr. Cook.
Thank you. No report for budget and finance. I spoke to Mr. McKeon. There is no need to have a budget and finance meeting next month, but maybe in May. Any questions regarding that? Okay. Moving on to project oversight. Tonight we did meet, and the first topic we did is we reviewed drawings for the tax office moving to City Hall. There are a couple options. One we favored more than others, but there still need to be some information collected and then some potential design changes, but progressing well. The second thing is Mr. Blummer gave an update on Gorman Park. That's progressing very well, and the photographs he had shown us look great. Should have a ribbon cutting sometime in May. And then Mr. Bosom gave us some updates on some public works projects, Kemper Path, Cornell Culvert, Malstella Road, US 42 Path, and Golden View Acres. So, and I'll have those in my report for next council meeting. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Community services, Mr. Levitt.
Thank you. I have no report this evening. Our next meeting is a little bit quick turnaround. It's on the 3rd of April at 4 p.m. in the administrative conference room. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Honored citizens, Ms. Knight.
Okay, tonight I'm honoring all the new businesses that are calling Sharonville their new home. I'm not going to name them because I'm sure I'll leave a couple out, but I know we have new restaurants, new repair shops, and different industries. I just want to say, welcome to Sharonville, best hometown in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Knight? All right, seeing none. Law and Public Safety, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. Next meeting of the Law and Public Safety Committee meeting will be April 2nd, 4 o'clock, Administrative Conference Room. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Schmidt? Seeing none. Rule suspension in motion, and motions first and only reading, ordinance 2024-25E, 2024-26E, and 2024-27E with immediate effectivity. Is there a motion for late delivery rule suspension for ordinances 2024-25E, 2024-26E, and 2024-27E? Mr. Schmidt, thank you for the first. Mr. Tankersley, thank you for the second. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say yes? Yes. Any opposed? All right, thank you. That has passed. There is no unfinished business. So new business, Ms. Buhite.
Okay. First and only reading of Emergency Ordinance 2024-25E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into contracts for the 2024 Street Repair Program and 2024 Street Preventative Maintenance Program and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance 2024-2025E? Mr. Cook, thank you for the first. Ms. Sharpshire, thank you for the second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshire?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Levitt?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Emergency Ordinance 2024-25E has been approved. First and only reading of Emergency Ordinance 2024-26E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a contract to provide residential waste collection for a period of 5 years and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance 2024-2026E? Mr. Cox, thank you for the first, and Mr. Lovett, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshire?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Levitt?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Emergency Ordinance 2024-26E has been approved. First and only reading of emergency ordinance 2024-27E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to apply for a staffing for adequate fire and emergency response grant through the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and if awarded, accept grant funds and amend the salary ordinance for additional fire department staff and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance 2024-27E? Mr. Tankersley, thank you for the first. Ms. Sharpsher, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshare?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Emergency ordinance 2024-27E has been approved.
Thank you. Last chance this evening for any residents desiring to be heard before City Council. All right. Well, seeing none. Are there any other matters to be heard before council this evening? Ms. Sharpshire.
I just have one thing to bring up, that the Sharonville Sharks swim team signups have opened up for the season. We're offering a $25 per participant. It's a special pricing this year because we're hosting championships and we want everyone to come out and swim with the Sharks. So, and just a future note that April 28th at 4 o'clock is their mandatory parent meeting.
Thank you. Mrs. Knight.
Yes, I just want to remind families that Saturday is the Easter egg hunt at Gower Park. I think it starts at 12. And Bethany is really excited because this year, I think they did it last year too, but no parents are allowed to look for eggs. They have to stand behind the line and let the kids get their own eggs. And they will not have gold eggs. So a lot of people are going for the gold eggs for the big prizes. The prizes will be in the regular eggs. So 12 o'clock Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other matters? There we go. All right, I'm requesting a motion to go in executive session under Ohio Revised Code 2021-2022G3 for the purpose of consulting with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are subject of pending or imminent court action. Do I have a motion? Mr. Cook, thank you for the first. Mr. Lovett, thank you for the second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshare?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Thank you. And once we adjourn out of executive session, we'll come back out to the chambers. There will be no other issues discussed, and we'll adjourn the meeting. So thank you.